of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking. People hearing without listening. People writing songs and voices never shared. And no one dared disturb the sound of silence.
Welcome to the Industry Boring Podcast. I'm Cullen Reichart, your host, and today we'll be covering almost anything related to cannabis. All right, Evan. Well, welcome to our show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Man, I'm really glad you made it out. What was it, a week or two ago? I think 2 weeks ago I came down and saw your deal.
2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was great, man. I really enjoyed the tour I got down there at Fleur.
It's
No? I fucked that up again.
It's all good. So it's Fleur, and it's a French name, and it's actually like fur with an L, so it's Fleur.
Fleur. Actually, that's all right. That comes
there
right
you go.
off.
You did it right,
Fleur.
very well there.
Yeah,
see, now you go. Now you got it, and you'll
But-
never do it wrong again.
Got it. That's funny. I used to work on Fleer in the Navy, but it's not Fleur.
No.
That's interesting. Anyway, what caught my attention, I mean, obviously, you and Jerry came out and visited the shop, and we kind of connected really well and had a great conversation, and walked us through our shop, and it was kind of reciprocal to go down and see you guys, what you guys do. But what caught me really walking through it was, I grew up, in my parents were like hippies and stuff, and so I've always been around like organic type agriculture, like composting and gardens and all that kind of stuff, and to walk into your place and for the first time I've seen it in commercial production, to see big earth pots basically, and to see the way you guys are growing, which really I thought was just fascinating.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's been the most rewarding style of growing I've ever done. I started growing in 1986, and I started in soil back then. We were still using fertilizers. I've never had the opportunity to do a completely organic setup before, and it's been amazing.
Honestly, I mean, when you said when we were talking about the basically the fertilizer, the lack thereof, really, and I was stunned. Because I mean, knowing what I know, which is limited, but in the growing side of things, I tried it for a while, wasn't very good at it, but I would never have tried without nitrogen, you know what I mean, like without having that heavy fertilizer load, and to see the plants, the healthiness, and just like what you guys are producing out of there with that style, it was really, really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, and you can get every element you need organically. You just need to know what the source is, that's for nitrogen. And as a matter of fact, we're using a lot of worms for nitrogen. We get a lot of worm castings in our soil, and a lot of pill bug castings, and
the pill bugs is an interesting thing. I think you guys were having a little bit of a bug battle when we came in.
The bug battle continues. I don't know if that will ever stop. It'll ever cease.
Well, that's kind of the magic of it too, right? I mean, you're creating a balance, or you're not creating a balance, but you're maintaining a balance between different levels of the soil, right? I mean, you have the plants up on the top, you have the bugs that are on kind of surface, and then the real deep subsurface stuff, and they're all doing their job, and you're kind of playing guard.
When you get it to a point, that's exactly what we've got set up.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I mean, you're continually feeding in certain types of insects into the garden, and if the worm population starts to decrease, you're feeding in new worms and stuff like that. But once you get to a certain point, the soil is so healthy, we're just feeding it mainly just reverse osmosis water, and that's it.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing
awesome.
to know. And I mean, think about the waste. Like I used to do hydroponic, and the the wash, the basically the trash that comes out of that, of the water. You're like, where do you put it? You know, you can go bake it in the sun, and then you have a bucket of salts.
Right.
You know, what do you
Right.
do with that?
Yeah.
But really, man, that's heavy duty stuff.
Yeah, you know, you touched on something here too. When you go into a new state that is doing cannabis, I fought the battle here because I started a company here called Matrix NV, and actually right here in North Las Vegas, very close to where we are right now. And when we submitted our plans to the building department, that's one of the things that we got hung up on, was that they didn't want to allow us to allow fertilizer to go down the drains.
Right.
And so they wanted us to collect it. You know, think about that.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, think about that. That's right.
So, yeah, that was a battle. So to do what we do and to not have any sort of runoff whatsoever, and to not have to fight those battles, if you know, when we go into other states, it's awesome. It's to me, it's the future of growing, I think, especially doing it indoors, because we're already putting a pretty heavy footprint, you know, on everything as it is. And so, you know, if you can grow organically in this style, then it only takes away from that. I think it's going to be something that will be more and more attractive to people as time goes on.
Well, if you look at this, I mean, looking at the health of the plant, I mean, you can't argue with the fact that there's success to be had.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know, I've seen. I mean, because I've been in the biggest greenhouse operations in the country, and actually in North America, and I've been in some of the most technically advanced, you know, grows in North America, and you see all this energy and effort and this intensity and all this balance that has to happen with all of that stuff, you know, and to see it kind of, and I'm not saying it's simple, but to see it kind of be simplified,
right,
if you will, you know, and to have that kind of that whole different idea about it. Because I mean, I like I said, I'm used to organics. I'm used to that kind of the idea of growing your own vegetables and doing all that kind of stuff, and love that zero impact kind of ideal. But I just didn't really understand. People always, I've heard them say, "Oh, you can grow and have as big a yield with organics as with traditional fertilizer." And I just didn't know. And I saw it.
We're proving that wrong.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that's the thing. In our industry, you don't really see it. No one's really had the opportunity to prove that out, especially indoors. Like you said, you've been around and seen most of the grows, and I'd say over 99% of them aren't growing organically,
right,
you know, in this style. It's not something that people were doing in the black market.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
You know, and so when people were starting these businesses and going to guys like me, they're going to guys that have been growing hydroponically for all these years, and they're going to bring the methods that they know. They're not going to try something new when people are throwing millions of dollars behind them to do what they know how to do.
Right.
So, you know, it's a very unique way of doing things, and, you know, like I said, we're proving it out that you can do it and you can get those same yields.
Yeah, and I've not actually had an opportunity to try the flower. I did try the edible, which is something else you guys do, which is freaking really cool.
Yeah.
Like I you know, most people are doing really crazy kind of extracts, and then they're putting that in, and you guys kind of do butter the way butter has always been done.
Yep. Yeah, that's all on Jerry. Like Jerry is just, you know, Evergreen Organics was one of the original edible brands in the state during medical marijuana. In fact, they were either the first or second to come out. And you know, it's funny because before I was ever working with Jerry, I was buying his edibles.
Yeah.
You know, and they've always been the best. You know, he brought in. They're partners with Wolfgang Puck, and they brought in these incredible chefs to just formulate these ingredients. And oh my God, the stuff that they're putting out is just amazing.
It's pretty amazing, yeah. When you look at, you know, a multi-layered dessert that is, you would find exactly at Wolfgang Puck's,
right?
And that's an edible.
Exactly. Yeah. So the hard thing is that you know, you want to eat too much of it. That's, you know, but it's really good stuff.
Well, thankfully he had a stack of them that were not medicated, and so I got to eat as much as I wanted. But that was pretty good. That was pretty amazing. But anyway, back to the butter. I mean, you guys do that the old-fashioned way. I mean, you grab basically trim.
Yeah. Everything is coming from our garden. It's all organic flour going into that, you know, and that's the kitchen. So that's kind of on the side. That's not something I'm involved with.
Right.
That's the production side of our business. But we feed them all of our trim, and they make all of the edibles out of everything that we grow. Yeah. It's really cool too.
Very cool. So when did you get started in cannabis?
Legally? So I started.
I think we're beyond that.
So okay. So I, as a kid, I was, you know, a 16-year-old kid, and I just really liked weed, and back in the day, you would get a lot of seeds in your bag, and I
is true.
was somewhat smart and said, well, shit, if I can grow this, I don't have to pay for it anymore. And so back in '86, I started trying to figure out how to grow it indoors, because I lived in Delaware. And that is not a good place to grow cannabis.
Not a good place for outdoor cannabis?
No, not at all. And so I ended up buying, when I was 17, a thing called a Phototron.
Oh, God, no way. I did, too.
Okay.
Did you have it? I had one in my closet.
That's exactly where I had mine.
Yeah.
and that's what got me started.
Is that right?
The good old Phototron got me started.
I followed the rules with the little, pinching and doing all that.
Everything.
I had this crazy bush growing inside my Phototron, bubbling down under. Yeah.
It didn't yield shit because it was under fluorescence. I mean, that's what the beginning of it was. And then in the 90s, hilarious. When you were able to start getting the lighting out of the back of out of High Times magazines, and stuff like that. That's when I really got started. I'd say probably around 92 is when I started growing indoors pretty heavily, and it's just never stopped.
My first big light was not an HPS lamp. It was metal halide, I think, and that was the first plant that I grew that actually got anything on it.
Right.
And we were so excited because at that time it was like the red hairs were the jam.
Right. Yeah, that's what everybody thought THC was in.
Yeah, it was in the hairs. The saffron. Right. I'm like, what the? Yeah, of course thankfully we're smarter than that now.
Yes.
But that's you remember that?
Oh, totally. The more hairs, the higher you get, man. It's
like, oh, dude, look at the red hair. Look at the hairs on that thing.
That's totally true. Yeah. I mean, I don't know when I stopped thinking that, but that lasted for a long time.
It did. It lasted for quite a while. That's so funny. And that was the qualifier. That was so interesting. Mm-hmm. But the Phototron, that's so funny. Oh my God. Yeah, I remember when I ordered that thing. I was so excited. I got it in and did the whole thing, and it wasn't.
No, it's like
that guy sold a lot of Phototrons.
Yeah. Oh no. Yes, he did. He's still making them, or there's somebody still is. They're still out there.
I know when I started looking for money for my company, I was at one of those money raising events, specifically around cannabis, and one of the guys, a young man there, had developed basically a Phototron on steroids, right? Like this is a box that's like 4 feet high. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about, waters, right?
Doing it
perfect,
all.
like the whole, and I'm like, wow, that's a Phototron,
dude. I saw the exact same thing.
and he looked at me and he's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, I get it. I'm old.
Yeah.
I get
it." We see eye to eye.
Yeah, it's pretty funny though. So I tried. I mean, I did try growing. I actually was in my house. My dad did. That's what got me into it. He was good. Like my dad was getting 2 pounds out of 600-watt lamps.
Nice.
Per lamp. Yeah,
wow.
he was really good. He had a great strain. I mean, we had a sour diesel that was
the best.
Money.
Yeah.
Super high yields and like 25% at the time, which was knock you down. So anyway, that's what I got into. So it was simple. I was like, oh, okay, I can do this, but it really quickly became something that took a lot more energy than I was prepared for. And,
right. Oh, dude, it's a full-time job.
Yeah. I blew it up. I had 2,000 square feet in a building. I found somebody that I had a collective. I did all my California legal stuff, and it just ran me to death, man. It just was so much work, and I was like, oh my God, I was trying to do like 3 separate. Oh my. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, that's a shitload of work.
Yeah.
Just the bedroom's a shitload of work.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes when it went really well, it was fucking magic. But most of the time, you were just battling one thing or another,
right.
And I was so much better with mechanics.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too. Growing hydroponically, you're always going to fight those battles, and that's the thing about growing organically is that we don't have to fight those battles. Once we've built up the population of beneficial insects and the beneficial bacteria that we have in that garden, it thrives.
Yeah.
You don't ever see those issues.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So
that is interesting because there's that buffer. And we soil's that buffer. Period, right. Because it gives you, you can't have that moment where you just fucked it all up.
Right. Yeah.
But with hydro, you can have that moment
in a second.
In a second.
Yeah.
And that's pretty devastating. But
very much so.
Obviously, it doesn't happen as much with these guys in the tech and the controls. But still, you're at the mercy of a bad feed.
Absolutely.
It'd be wipe you out.
Right,
And
or
that's
no
not good.
feed or something. Yeah, I mean,
or a no feed, right?
right.
Yeah.
And with us, it's like we're with Rockwool, for example, I was feeding 6 times a day.
Yeah.
Here we feed twice or once every 2 days.
Yeah.
And that's at the most.
That's astounding to me.
Isn't that awesome?
And it's astounding because I'm looking at the plants, and one of the things I've noticed about growing, because I see a lot of different places, is a lot of guys' lights are much higher off the canopies now, and they've got more lights, but they're higher,
right?
And they're getting better, penetration through the canopy. Man, we were putting our, like the 13 inches, man, light to plant canopy thing. That's where we were at back when I was doing it.
Growing with lenses too, though.
Yeah.
Right? Under the lamp, you probably had a lens with an air-cooled light, right?
Back then, yeah. You'd have chain them together,
of course,
air through them, and it was bad juju. But anyway,
people still do it that way.
They still do. I'm sure they do. And I remember when the first water cooled lamps came. You know what I mean? I was like, ooh, that's got to be the coolest thing ever. Whatever. Anyway, the point is, like, this whole moving it up top and way up there is really, I just never even conceived of it. But yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. Yeah. But to see that there's not, you guys are pretty similar. You have your lights are pretty high.
Yep.
And you're not blasting. It's like you're not turbocharging. You're just growing really strong, healthy plants.
Correct. Yeah, and we're just shooting for a certain par level that the plants have to hit by the time they're finishing. The light's measured in UMOLs, and so we're trying to hit a par level somewhere between 800 and 1,000 UMOLs, which it's in lighting jargon, that's what it is. But then, there's actual science behind it. And it's actually, there's meters that you can put under your lights and to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
And the majority of the lights coming out now, it's funny, these light manufacturers, back in the day when I was building out a place back in 2014, we all thought that you had to have moving lights. Like, that's the way to do it now, moving lights. And no, like, we went to PL, which was one of the biggest light manufacturers in the country or in the world. And they laughed at us when we said that. And they said, no, you want your plants to grow in to the par level that you need them to grow into. You don't want your plants getting killed the entire time they're growing at an 800 to 1,000 par level. You want them to start off, 300, gradually get into 500. By the time they're finishing in that 800 to 1,000. Yeah. That's the way to do it.
Those PLs, those were the lights that my dad had, and those 600 watt PLs were the best, and that's the way they grow. I mean, that's how they grow food.
Yep.
And in a lot of places under those kind of lights. So that's exactly right.
I have a good story about PL. PL, actually, we wanted to bring them into the space. They weren't selling into the cannabis space back in 2014. They had really just gotten started. There was one company in the United States that was selling that light in the United States, and we were one of the first companies to bring them in. I had a direct relationship with them, but they're in over 65% of indoor agriculture outside of cannabis. Yeah, and so they just didn't even want to touch the industry. They didn't need to.
Yeah, why would you? Exactly. Cannabis is a small drop in the bucket.
That's why Gavita did so well, is because some of the executives from PL I believe started Gavita or went over to Gavita or something like that. So they brought that technology and that know-how over to Gavita. Yeah, and they blew up pretty quickly.
And I think Gavita just went straight to cannabis.
That was it.
Went hard after cannabis.
Yeah, totally. Focused solely on cannabis.
Yeah. And it's great. I mean, it's a great product, but I think like the know-how and the plant growing know-how of PL was the difference.
Yeah, totally.
I remember going to Colorado when I was just started selling equipment and going to Colorado and seeing Colorado's approach, because I was traveling. I was selling vacuum cleaners, trimmers, but you know what I mean, like knocking on doors and meeting all these people doing it all different ways. And I remember that moment in Colorado, watching guys had changed the way that people were thinking about cannabis, because they were doing this continuous perpetual turn. You move out of veg and you go into your flower room, and you're doing 12 lights every day. And it's like this whole concept of this massive moving kind of machine around cannabis. The mechanizing of the actual growing, right? Which I think is probably not the best way to do it, but because they're pulling it no matter whether it's ripe or not, and we all know cannabis doesn't do that. Yeah. But what I was trying to get to is like the whole kind of that approach, that bringing technology in and bringing all the science in, and they weren't looking to the people who grow food. Right. And that's astounding to me, because here's that company, here's PL doing like we could show you how to do this the right way.
Right.
If you just
doing it
ask,
forever.
we've been doing it forever. We grow the best food in the world, as a matter of fact. You've probably eaten some, you know?
Definitely, yeah.
You know? And it's just interesting. The whole concept was different, you know, to kind of go, but cannabis really quickly jumped through that stage, I think, you know, and now you're seeing this wonderful hybrid stuff with the greenhouses and supplemental lights, and
Absolutely.
which I think is great.
Yeah, and it's only going to grow more and more. Now a state like New York falls, you know, once Texas falls, oh my God, you're going to see some really big companies get into this more and more.
Yeah,
you know? So, yeah, it's
and
awesome.
that's what's happening, right? The big boys are coming in. You know, that's what happens to us.
Yeah.
Carve out our little niche, you get our little thing going, and then the big boys come along and go, thank you very much. But okay, well, we'll deal
Hopefully
with
they
that.
thank us correctly.
Right. That's the hope, right? Yeah. We'll see. Well, that's yet to be determined.
Yeah,
but
very much so.
But yeah. So I think that's so. Cannabis, watching it and watching the outdoor thing and seeing all the different amalgamations of it, and still people are growing the same plant, and you know, still cannabis, man.
It's still cannabis.
Still cannabis.
Genetics are, you know, but that's something also that people come into the industry and make mistakes over. Is, you know, they come in and they think, oh, I'm just going to grow weed and we're going to do very well.
Yeah.
And you know, now it's not back in the day where we thought red hairs were what made things potent. You know, now there's so much science behind it and so many different strains, and you know, there are connoisseurs upon connoisseurs out there now, and so you really have to be on top of it.
There's a battle there too, because I mean, there's a brand battle, right? That's that recognition, right? You know, that one strain or your set of strains, and that, you know, you can get caught there too, right? You want to find the better, and kind of go down that road, but the consumer is going to be like, man, that X brand of whatever is my favorite, and that's what they want. You know, we're still a McDonald's culture.
It's getting, you know, I agree with that. I think it's going to quickly get out of that, because what we're seeing here is, you know, and I'm not going to name names, but we're seeing certain brands come into the state. And, you know, so how this works now is they set up licensing deals. Say I have a brand that's, you know, I'm a rapper and I have a brand and it's very popular, and I want to bring my brand to a different state. I have to do a licensing deal because I don't have a license in that state. So I go to a guy that grows. Yeah. Well, everybody grows differently, you know, and unless you can get in with a group that's in every single state that's going to grow your brand, you're going to be inconsistent in each single state that you go to. And that's what we're seeing here in Las Vegas. Certain brands come here, they're very popular in other areas outside of the state, and then they come here and their flower is just different. And that consumer gets that, and they say, what the heck, wait a minute. And that can hurt a brand.
It can absolutely hurt a brand, I think, and that's a risk. But we talk about this from the equipment side, like, you know, once you're done growing it and you go to processing, you need that consistency there too. You need to have that recognition. So your branding, your marketing, but your preparation, the way you trim, the way you manage the flower, the way that you dry, the way that you do whatever.
That's right.
Those things have to be consistent as well.
Absolutely.
Because that becomes a part of the brand and the recognition of your consumer, and that's a problem, right? So you have to have that kind of through the whole pipeline, that consistency. And you know, you don't want it to go to the level of fast food, but the consumers demand some of that. You know, they really do demand.
Right.
You know?
It's interesting you said fast food, because you were just making me think of that movie Franchise, the one movie about McDonald's, the founders of McDonald's, and they didn't want to branch out. They had their niche, they had it down.
Perfect system, they nailed it.
Exactly. And they knew if they brought it outside of there, it would get, you know, could get hurt.
Yeah.
And so you're exactly right. And with cannabis, it's way more complicated making hamburgers.
Yeah.
You know, it's
it is.
Way more complicated.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is definitely an issue. And that's why I think that, you know, the people that go slow and steady in this are the ones doing it right. You see so many people that are just trying to just take over the world right now. You don't see that from a cultivation aspect, though.
Right.
You see it from the retail side more so. I haven't really seen any grow out there that's just like, you know, like I said, it's just brand names, but there's not really any grower that's really dominating this right now.
No, that is true. I think the guys that are making the big brand plays are doing just that. They're making a big brand play. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it is a consolidation move, you know. And you see that they're buying up territory as this is America. This is what we do, man.
That's right.
This is how we do it. But it's interesting to watch that consolidation, and then you wonder, what's going to really happen with that brand? Is that really going to still be, right now it's very much brand centric, not product centric, right? So it's the swag and the experience and the marketing and all these other things that surround it. You guess who I'm talking about, man. How do you have a national brand when you can't grow cannabis nationally, right? But there's a couple of them, but that's a brand play, right? And that's a really interesting play and a good play. It's just a different play, and I don't know how it's ultimately gonna finish. But when you start to see, for instance, in beer, because beer you can ship everywhere, but you get an 805, my favorite beer, right? Great beer, just takes off, catches fire, goes everywhere. That beer tastes the same today as when I tried it the first time,
right?
And that's a different focus, right? That brand is tied to that flavor, right? That name. The brewery, I barely know their name. I know who they are, but you know what I mean? It's the 805 that's what I remember, right?
Right.
But that flavor, that whole experience is that thing that ties me to that brand. And that's not what's happening here because they don't have that.
You can't do it.
Yeah, can't do it.
There's no interstate commerce.
Yeah.
It's state by state, man.
State by state. And until you can isolate things completely, and create the same exact environment, which you can't.
Right.
They try, but
it's tough.
It's really tough.
That's what I would love to be able to do as a cultivator, is to kind of just go to state slowly but surely and bring what we're doing, because we've, like you said, managed to simplify it to a certain degree.
Yeah.
That we can make this a cookie cutter type of franchise.
Sure. Right.
Whereas when you're growing in the other methods, like you said, it's an exact science, and you really got to be on top of it. If your EC is off, if your pH is off, if you don't have a guy that cares about that place and is there like practically 24/7, it's not going to succeed.
Well, there's so many pieces that are, we tend to think when we have a little tiny piece of environment like a grow room, that if you do that somewhere else, that's going to be the same. And the elevation where that grow room is a big deal. The relative humidity around the outside,
huge.
The amount of moisture you get per year, even though you're in an isolated space, has a great effect on it.
Absolutely.
The water, the minerals in your water, if you're not cleaning it out completely, it just compounds and compounds. And
Absolutely.
So the bigger the buffer you can make, like your system would be, I think, more ideal, because again, you can create a system that creates a lot of buffer and creates a lot of consistency, right? Just based on the system.
Exactly.
And I don't think that's as easy to do outside of that.
No, I can tell you firsthand it's not.
Yeah.
I've done it. I've done all the styles, and I have the luxury of having started a company doing that method of growing, and my partners at that company were the owners of General Hydroponics and the owners of Scott's Miracle Grow. So I've gone down the road of growing with fertilizers, and I can tell you I've fought all the battles, and this is just, once you get to a certain point, it's so much easier. It's just so much easier, and getting to that point isn't really all that hard.
No, I mean, you had to untangle some messes when you got in there. I know, but that's kind of how business is. I think that the experience, and I don't know how much you want to share about what what Jerry and you guys what you went through, and kind of the history. But I mean, needless to say, there was a lot of confusion coming into the space, and when you got involved, you had to untangle a lot to kind of get it kind of right. But this is not an uncommon story.
Right.
Like, I hear this a lot from different people who get involved. They got a guy. This guy's going to get them to the goal, to the final line and finish everything out. And it doesn't work out. And they're millions of dollars in, and everything is not kind of functioning. It's dysfunctional. And then, they're in a real bind. A guy like, the owner is like, dude, I'm kind of fucked right now. This is not working out like I had expected. There's supposed to be money here, not money continuously flowing out. But I mean, yeah. So I mean, that you went through that. With Jerry.
Oh yeah.
Coming into that space.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we were. there was a business that wasn't doing very well when I took it over.
Yeah.
They were putting out 100 pounds a month out of a facility that, they needed to be putting out a minimum of, I'd say, 200 pounds a month to really just cover the bills.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of challenges that I walked into, but we've definitely overcome those in a short span of time. It's been about it'll be 2 years this June. Yeah. 2 years this June since I've taken it.
It's beautiful, man. It's really, really stunning.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I was really taken aback by that whole experience, because I'm very, very used to kind of the commercial approach,
mm-hmm.
and it has a really solid feel,
mm-hmm.
and it doesn't feel commercial.
Right.
I know it can produce at that level, but it just doesn't feel like
it feels mom and pop almost.
Yeah. But I mean, more than that. I mean, it's like going to a restaurant where the person cooking is the person who started that thing.
Right.
Yeah. And you're looking at it and you're going, that food's going to be good because
mm-hmm.
they've been doing it for 40 years.
Right.
That's kind of the feel of it, kind of that really like engaged kind of feel.
Yeah. I've been fortunate to surround myself with a lot of smart people too, and that's part of the reason for the success. I can't take the credit all to myself. I've brought a guy by the name of Nate Whedon in. He was working at a lab here in Las Vegas, but I had been wanting to work with Nate for years and years, and he was the best solventless extraction guy I had ever met in the black market side of things, back in the day. But he was also he has a degree from UNLV. He's a science major, and he had been studying living soil. So when I had this opportunity, he and I had already planned on working together, producing some rosin for Jerry.
Yeah.
And when this opportunity came up, I brought it to him, and he's like, "Oh, hell yeah!" And so it's been a great working relationship and a friendship ever since then.
Yeah.
Since with he and I, and then the other guy that I was speaking about earlier, who's the grow manager, a guy named Sven Blum. He's been outstanding as well. He understood the building and understood the operation, and when I came in, he just needed the tools to succeed, and he was just one of those guys that just needed guidance and the right tools to succeed, and it's been a great working relationship and friendship as well there too.
That's great.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I almost said awesome again.
Lance, but Lance he always says aces in their places, right?
Mm-hmm, that's right.
And it's just, and I love Lance because he's always got those little one-liners, but dude, they're brilliant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's good.
And it's really just that. It's like recognizing people's talents and their abilities, and then going, how do I grow that?
Yep.
How do I nourish that?
Mm-hmm.
And then, sometimes you're pruning, and sometimes you're feeding, and sometimes you're just watching,
right. Right.
But getting people, that's the biggest challenge for me in this company right now is, and well, it has been for a while, is keeping that, that freshness and keeping good people in the right
mm-hmm.
place. They need to be in the right place.
Same for me. I think that's probably any company is going to fight those battles too. It's maybe not a battle, but
it's a battle.
Yeah.
It's just a battle. It's fair.
Okay, it's a battle. Yeah.
Sometimes people die.
That was the thing when I said, and I'm not saying this about the guys I just talked about, but one thing I didn't really anticipate when I started running a business was the amount of just, how it's almost like you're babysitting in a lot of ways too sometimes, but you get really involved with all of your employees and their lives, and every one of those lives matters to you. It's a very unique experience being in charge of something like this.
Very unique experience, and I've ever since we started growing and really started moving, it's always been that kind of. Now, I'm not detailed. I don't know everybody's detail and personal and emotional, but I still have a very great commitment. Like,
mm-hmm.
this is my responsibility. My responsibility as a business owner is to keep this commitment to
mm-hmm.
these people going. Right?
Right.
And so when that's falling off or failing in one way or another, I'm the guy who carries it, and when it's succeeding, they get to hear about it, right?
Exactly right.
Just like it's a challenge, man. Yeah, it's fucking challenging.
It's lonely at the top, as they say.
It is, and and the perspective here is so different. When you're there, it's I remember, I came up through corporate. And I remember all the questions I had, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know all the answers to those questions now. and
Right.
it's fucking crazy, man. But you have this whole different understanding of what's needed and what you have to have and how things have to work. And when you're new in business, you don't have all the answers and all those kind of things, and sometimes those lessons suck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But the hiring and firing of people is difficult. I find that to be very challenging.
That's the worst part of the job, I think.
Yeah.
For me, definitely.
Yeah. It's tough, man. I'm getting better at it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting better at getting people out sooner.
Same here.
You know,
I'm getting better at not hiring people that I'm going to have to fire.
And there you go. Right. So I try and do the pre-firing by hiring well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Exactly right.
But I had this guy come in. He was courting me. Just like I'm like, oh, okay, he's got experience, grown a business, sold a business, done well, and I'm like, wow, this is somebody I could, lean on and could be helpful for some of the things I'm not quite understanding.
Mm-hmm.
No, bad call.
Yeah.
Just turned out to be a big nothing burger, and I wasted a lot of time.
I've made some pretty bad hires too.
You just look at it, you're like, what the, there's moments that these people they always give themselves away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're like, everything seems to be kind of on point, and then they'll say something, and you're so caught off guard, you can't believe that they just said that thing to you, and you go, you need to work somewhere else. It's really obvious to me right now. You're stuck. You just fucking. It's like
That's an shit moment.
Yeah. I gotta figure out how to get out of this deal right now. What the fuck is going on? This guy, he just killed me. But I think that's very interesting. Because people will tell you whatever the fuck they want.
That's right.
They'll blow the biggest smoke ring right in your butt and tell you the best story, and you fall in love. You're like, this guy's gonna, and it's just like.
Especially when money's involved.
Oh yeah,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And then we try to bring people up from within, too.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Jordan. I had her on, and she does my process. She's my process manager. She's brilliant with people, but we were talking about that kind of internal promotion. And taking a rock star, somebody who really excels at their job, and going, ooh, man, that might make a good manager. Maybe I should move them up. A lot of times you kill them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, it's unfortunate, but you're like, wow, this guy was so great here, and then you move them over here, and they're dying, and you're trying to figure it out, and it just that's a bad.
It's tough, but you got to give the people the opportunity.
I think so.
Yeah,
I do. I agree.
I never feel bad about something like that. I've definitely experienced that many times, and I never feel bad about it. It's just like, it is what it is. A lot of times I've been fortunate where I'm able to move them back into the old position they were once in.
Yeah.
So that makes it a little bit easier when you do that.
We usually don't have that space, that luxury, because there's continuous movement through through the ranks, if you will. But I have had one guy that obviously he was just like completely over his head and it wasn't working out. And I said, listen, this is the choice. I can let you go, or I can give you your old job back. I take my old job back? I'll do that. I'm like, okay. He was happy as a clam. And then I had another guy. I'm like, dude, this is, we talked about doing this. I brought you up. We're doing 6 months, and we're at the end of 6 months, and this isn't your thing, man. Oh, I can't go back. I'm like, okay, but you can't stay here. So, I can't go back. I said, why not? Well, they'll laugh at me. I'm like, dude, they respect you. Those are people, you're just not cut out to do the work that needs to be done right here.
Right.
You're still going to have the same team.
Do you know who won't laugh at you? The bank teller when you're cashing your check.
Right. Yeah, not going to laugh at all.
No.
Yeah, people get caught up on stupid shit, man. Whatever. It's kind of one of the hard parts, though, hiring and firing.
Very much so.
Difficult. Yeah. Get emotionally connected, or not even emotional. It's just emotional, period. It's just a connection, period,
Humans.
Yeah.
We're all humans. We all want to see each other succeed, and
to some extent, you want to, you want to see the best for people.
That's right.
Most
of us that think that way. Anyway.
I think so too. Most. I'm hard on my young guys, but they're the guys that
they need it.
Yeah, they need it. They're the ones that need it.
That's right.
They get beat down a little
These
bit.
millennials and whatever the generations before millennials, I
Yeah.
tell you, man.
It's crazy. It's craziness.
They took the pressure off.
There's Jack chiming in.
Yes. Poor Jack's been sitting here listening to this the whole time.
He's just suffering. His mic doesn't work, so don't worry about it. But so I mean that's interesting. I mean I came out to Vegas 2 years ago from San Diego, and my wife she'd been here for 20 years, and she was really encouraging me. She's like, the work ethic is better. It's a better working class,
right?
Than you're going to find in California, and she was right to some extent, and so for the most part, we've done very, very well out here. We've had to get through a lot of people, because when a new company comes in, the first people you get are, not necessarily at the top of the pile, but as you start to kind of go through, you start to find these
build your team,
man, and you start finding these gems, and you just, sometimes people just shock you.
Yeah.
You're like, holy shit, man, how did I get that lucky?
Yeah, I've been here since 2001, and when I moved here, I was a bartender when I moved out here to be a bartender on the Strip.
Is that right?
Yeah, I was with a company called Kahunaville. They started in Delaware. That's where I'm from, and we opened up a place in Treasure Island.
Nice.
And when I moved out here, it was a great gig. I had 15 years. It was awesome. It was.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, at that time, Vegas,
great,
a bartender in Vegas.
Oh my God!
Come on.
So when I moved here, like everybody had two jobs. Everybody, the workforce here, everybody was killing it. Everybody I worked with owned homes. Everybody was doing really well.
Yeah.
And so
that's what
Vegas
my wife says. She's always had two. I'm like, how do you like 2 or 3 jobs? I'm a one job guy. I mean, I bury myself here. But I can't even imagine doing 2. But everybody
this town
was
is
doing 2.
filled with workaholics. I guess was really I'm getting at. And so now those jobs really aren't there anymore. So there's going to be a lot of good people out there looking for work. For sure.
Yeah, I got fortunate. I think I picked up some good people from the show industry because that shut down for a year. And one of the guys that works for me used to do the kind of the support stuff, like the heavy support stuff. Behind the scenes show stuff. He's rigging and all kinds of other stuff. But he's brilliant.
Nice.
Brilliant. Great guy. Never would have got that guy if that hadn't happened. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to keep him. I'm going to figure out any way I can to keep him because I love the guy. You find people
got
like
great staff.
There's some characters out there. I got my tech support guy. Yeah, that guy.
He's character.
That's an interesting guy.
The guy that showed me all of your all the equipment out there. I can't remember what it was called, but just all the stuff that cuts up all the steel.
All the machines, yeah.
Oh, it was incredible.
Yeah. You probably talked to Eric. That's
who it was.
Yeah, he's the engineering team.
He's brilliant.
Team lead. Yeah, he's a fucking really smart guy.
Yeah.
He came actually out of the same. I found him because basically the strip shut.
Okay.
He was doing some of that work too.
See, there
he
you go.
brought in this other guy, but he's great. I love him. He's getting a little bit of razzing right now from me, but he's thick. He'll get over it.
He likes V-necks.
He likes V-necks, yeah. Yeah, he's kind of a superhero guy. He's well built and fuck, he's just the nicest guy. He's a nice guy, but we bust him on his V-neck. That's how life is.
His nerdy V-necks.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. That's what it is. Super good guy.
It's okay. That's what friends are for.
That's right. Hey, look, if you're not gonna call your guys out, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh man, you're not being honest with each other.
That's right. Got to be a little bit, right?
That's right,
dude. Don't wear that.
No, I want my friends telling me my flaws. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it always was when we were growing up, right? I mean, it was a nonstop.
Yeah, it's called busting each other's balls.
That's it. Nonstop, man.
Always.
And now I get under people's skin a little bit, and I'm like, all right, I have to back up.
People seem to be a little more sensitive these days. I don't know what happened, can't say anything anymore.
When you show up at work, you gotta have fun, man.
Yeah, you should have fun.
You should have fun.
Why be here if you're not?
That's it. Yeah. That's at Fleur, same thing. We just have a lot of fun. Everybody that we have at that place is super passionate about what we do, about cannabis, and they just, we've built, I'd like to say, a family out there.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
what you have to do for a
when you
successful
walk
business.
in the door, you can feel it. The vibe is super, super chill, and has that quiet intensity about it because shit's getting done.
Yep,
and,
exactly.
I didn't pay a ton of attention to everybody that I saw, but I didn't see anybody fucking off, slacking in the corners.
Right.
And I've been through those guys. We actually just got rid of a couple guys that were like that, and you just finally have enough, It happens, man. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, you should enjoy it. You're giving me 8 hours of your day. You got another 8 hours that belong to you, and then you're gonna sleep for 8. So
Yeah, exactly.
I get 30% of your time. You should enjoy it.
Yeah, having come from the other side of it, on the blue collar side of it, not running a business, I treat them the way I would have always wanted to be treated. And,
Right.
And that's the way I think all businesses should be run. When you treat your employees well,
Yeah.
the end product is going to be really
Man,
good.
do you ever see those old pictures or movies of the guys when accountants used to be like school kids at desks?
Mm-hmm.
They weren't kids; they were adults at desks, and the guy would walk down with
yeah.
What the fuck? Can you imagine working? No. Right? We are so spoiled here. Like, we are so spoiled here. Like, we get to choose what we want to do and who we want to do it for. Like,
That's
most
awesome.
of the world
that's
doesn't
great.
have that option.
It's
Either
true.
one of those options, right?
Right.
It's amazing how good we have it here.
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm very happy to live in the United States. Always have.
Yeah.
Always have.
Yeah.
No matter
As
what's
crazy
going
as it
on,
gets.
Yeah.
As
No
crazy
matter
as it
what's
gets.
going on, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Yeah.
And
me either.
here in Las Vegas too. I mean, I've been a lot of places and I love it here.
Yeah.
And for me, the weather here, the climate, just the fact that I can play golf year round here. It's just,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah,
it's
that's
great.
I was gonna bring up the golf thing next because we have to go.
Okay.
So we're going to go, but the golf is one of the most unbelievably frustrating and humbling experiences, and I use that all the time to remind myself that I'm just a guy.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And I'm really not very good
Right.
at some things, so I need to remember that, because life is full of all these opportunities to be an asshole and to really get your head full of wrong ideas,
Right.
and think you're better or more than you are, and then you walk around and you can run into trouble that way. And I think it's really important. So I play golf to remind myself of how just bad I am sometimes.
Yeah, stay humble.
That's it.
That's it.
Just to give that moment, just like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's one of the more frustrating things you can do with your time.
Right.
That's for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
you get all this free time. You're like, okay, I'm taking a day to go frustrate the shit out of
Right.
myself.
Probably take years off my life. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's true.
Yeah. But I do it, and I do it every day, probably.
You see, that's my issue is I'm obsessive. And so, like with golf, before I started Matrix, I was very, very into golf. I had got myself under 80 pretty consistently.
Nice.
And I was playing very well. And then I started a company, and golf just went out the window.
Just goes away.
Literally didn't play for 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years. So with COVID and not being able to see my mom, who lives here in Vegas, I said, well, and she's a golfer. And we said, well, let's start going golfing. And so I got back into it. And now I'm obsessed again.
Yeah.
And so now I got to get good again. So it's again in there taking lessons and just completely obsessed with it.
Yeah.
But, I'll see where I can get.
Yeah.
Right now I'm at that just incredibly frustrating part of it where, I go out there and I just get pissed every time I play.
If I can keep myself within myself, I do very well.
Yeah.
And I watched the best video on golf I've ever watched was this guy, and he was with a pro, and he's like, what's the difference between an amateur and a pro? And he's like, well, as a pro, I know that I'm going to play, and if I'm going to make a mistake, I'd rather it be this direction, because I know that there's this space over here I might end up in. So I'm going to favor that direction.
Right.
As an amateur, you're aiming for perfection all the time. And pros, that's not what they do.
No.
They go shot.
Right.
Oh, I need to be over here for the next one. And they play into the position to be ready for that putt out.
Right.
Where amateurs are like, fuck, I gotta get a hole in one, man.
That's a very good way of looking at it.
You know?
That's when my game started improving. That's what I started doing was, okay, well, when I miss over here.
Yeah.
And that's okay. So, I set up shots, basically planning on a possible miss, hoping for the best. But, if the worst happens, I'm still going to be in good shape.
Yeah.
That's key to that game.
It is because then you actually, because if you look at the whole setup of the game, it's designed to be a scratch, right? It's designed to play par.
Right.
So
That's right.
Why am I not playing par?
Well,
that's a totally different conversation. But but that's it. It's getting outside of that crazy control moment and just flowing with it. Because some of the best holes I've had have started or had a really bad shot in the hole.
Right.
And you're just like, oh my God, I can't even believe it. This whole hole's fucked. I can't even believe it. And you walk up on the ball and you're like, what? That's not so bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you flop one right up on the green. You're like, I'm doing all right.
That's right.
I'm doing all right. Yeah. All right.
I played Bears Best about 3 weeks ago with some buddies of mine, and so I had I think it was the 15th hole. I hit a great drive. Well, yeah, it's an awesome course. I love that course. Hit a great drive. Had a great drive down the middle of the fairway, and then I have a 7-iron into the green, and I push it, and I end up on a hill, and the ball, I don't know how it hung up on this hill, but it hung up on the hill. It should have just rolled all the way down, but it didn't. And I had to, so the pin was in the front of the green, and there was a trap in between me and the pin, and I was hitting off of a major downhill lie, and behind the pin, only another 5 yards, was another sand trap. So I had to land this ball in a really, really small, tight area, and it was a 35-yard shot. And I just did a 9 o'clock swing with a 60-degree wedge, and the ball landed, barely got over the trap, just bounced again on the green, and went right in the hole. And everybody, and I was playing with 3 buddies, and they all watched it happen too. It was just one of those moments. I'm like,
one of those moments.
Okay, yeah, coming back next week.
Yeah,
that was it.
So we were. I was out playing with one of my engineers, my son and I, and he has, we're at the men's tees, and he has this horrible shot, and it goes up to the ladies' tee. And we're like, well, if it doesn't go past the ladies' tee, you got to pull your pants down for the next shot, right? That's the deal, right? You have to shoot with your pants down, like. So he gets up there and he just passed. I'm like, just fucking tee it up right there. Boom, hole in one.
Oh no,
right?
Nice.
Yeah. So
nice.
I mean, it's just like that moment. I'm like, holy shit, Dylan! I think you. No way! I think you hit it. I think you got it. Walk up there. Sure enough, there it is sitting there.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's how that went.
That's awesome.
So
I've never hit one in my whole life.
Neither have I.
Yeah, someday. Hopefully, we have a golf tournament coming up here in the cannabis industry on the 28th.
Yeah.
And they're giving away a car on one of the holes for a hole-in-one.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. A BMW. So
yeah.
hopefully I get my first one.
We were wanting to get, they want us to sponsor, but I can't play because it's all full up. I'm like, not doing that.
Yeah. Do the next one.
Yeah.
He's going to be doing a lot of them.
Yeah. We used to do, last time I did the one in Colorado, which is by the clinic. Mm-hmm. They do a really nice one. Beautiful course out there.
Cool.
That they do. But I was thinking about that. Like, we should do one. Like, Green Bros do one. And I just don't think we have the gumption for. I don't have it.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I've been watching them set this up.
Be better on just getting on board with them and sponsoring, give them a big sponsorship, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's his main focus now.
Yeah.
That's what Lemon Haze, the company's Lemon Haze, he's literally going all over the country now setting these up.
Yeah.
And COVID actually did him a favor in that sense. It's a funny story. So this is a guy, he was in Seattle and decided to come down to Vegas. But his company, his business model was events in the cannabis industry for like bud tenders to meet cultivators and that kind of thing. He's kind of a networking within the industry kind of thing. And so he and I did a podcast together or a webinar. And afterwards, he just wrote to me on Instagram. He's like, hey, I just moved to Vegas. I'd love to pick your brain. Could you meet me for lunch? And it's COVID. And I was like, dude, I'm not meeting anybody for lunch right now.
Yeah.
I said, but, if you want to, honestly, I just kind of, just some dude I didn't really know. I was like, yeah, if you want to play some golf, I'll meet you. And he's like, I love golf. Let's play. So we go out and end up, great guy. And so we go out and he gets the idea of running a golf tournament for the cannabis industry basically off of that whole conversation and he and I going out and playing golf. I think I don't know if I suggested it to him or not, but he thanks me all the time for starting this, and now he's blowing it up.
I think you totally suggested it.
I totally
nice
did.
Job.
Thank you.
That's crazy.
Pretty sure I did. But
yeah, pretty sure you did too. Yeah.
But he's killing it now. He's flying out to dude. He's doing like 1-day trips out to Florida, Massachusetts, just to check out golf courses.
Really?
He's running these tournaments all over the country now. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Brilliant. Yeah,
it's great. Good for him, man.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, I think we'll definitely get involved in that because why not?
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Why not?
Why not?
Have you ever played out at Mesquite at Wolf Creek?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Played that course once.
Yeah.
Yeah. And had one of those great shots on the 18th there that I'd love to talk about. And my brother and I had a bet going on that course, and we were even coming in the last hole, which is really funny because my brother's an outstanding golfer and I was not that great at the time. And but we're coming in the last hole, and I hit a decent drive, and then he hit a decent drive, and then I have the first shot in, and on the last green there's a cliff on the left side.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I know that cliff.
Okay, well, I hit it up on top of the cliff. All right.
I hit the cliff, but didn't get
so
to the top.
I thought I was screwed because it's a blind shot.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we walk up, my ball is a foot away from the hole. He was so pissed.
Yeah,
it was great.
yeah.
I love those kinds of shots.
That's it. Wow, that's awesome.
Better to be lucky than good.
Yeah, I'll take it any day. Well, listen, man, it's been great having this opportunity to kind of catch up and talk about what you guys do over there and just talk.
Absolutely.
Don't get a chance to do that all the time.
No,
in
this is
my
a different
line
kind of podcast. I dig it. I like it.
Yeah, you know what? We were talking about kind of how to even do this thing, and I love the Rogan experience, but not to be Joe Rogan because nobody could be Joe Rogan,
right.
But the conversational aspect of it was kind of like, wow, let's go down that road because honestly, I'm not an interviewer, and
you're doing a good job.
But I like to talk.
Yeah.
And I love this business, and I'm passionate about
Right.
what I do, and I figure if I'm with people that are passionate, then we're gonna have a good conversation.
That's right.
I'm sure I'm gonna run into somebody we don't jive well, but that's
true.
how it works.
People come. Howard Stern's a great example. He was never an interviewer, but I think he's probably the best interviewer out there right now.
Yeah.
The guy that when he brings on people now, man, listen, like he brings like somebody like Paul McCartney and stuff. He brings stuff out of them like you could never ever, no.
Yeah, we never expect to ever hear from.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
And,
it's really interesting.
So that's the road you're traveling, my friend.
Yeah, there we go. I can retire.
There you go. I'll listen.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, thanks for your time, man.
It was my pleasure.
We'll get together and play some golf.
Awesome. I would love to do that for
Awesome.
sure. Bring this guy Jack out too. He deserves it. Sitting here listening to us.
Yeah. He can swing the sticks too.
So I've heard.
All
All right. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you guys for joining. That concludes our podcast for this week. Don't forget to check us out on all the socials at Green Bros.